One of the points that we thought it would be interesting to cover, apart from everything that Rhianne has already introduced, is how can we find wisdom and consequently sacredness, because the name of the workshop is finding sacredness in the body. So wisdom and sacredness, they walk like hand in hand, at least in my mind they do that. So how can we find wisdom and sacredness consequently in both menstrual cycle and in the different life stages we all go through, and how can we restore our connection to nature through this wisdom and sacredness? Or we could even ask, like, how could we restore a healthy connection with our bodies, our emotions, and the life phases, the life stages we all go through by observing the cycles of nature, like seasons and the moon cycle, which is the two cycles that we are going to discuss here. So speaking about the moon cycle, uh, the menstrual cycle and the moon cycle, they are very connected for several different reasons. We are going to point out a few ones here just for us to have material for discussion and for us to think about these things together. And I think the first point that it's really interesting is how menstrual beings, they experience a cycle that lasts around 28 days, which is exactly the time that the moon takes to complete its cycle as well. Of course, like many people, me for example, I do not have a cycle that it's exactly 28 days. It's a bit longer, and that's fine. Like if we don't have like a menstrual cycle that matches exactly what the moon does, it's okay, of course, because all of us, we have different cyclic processes. We are different human beings and unique, so that's absolutely fine. It's just for a matter of illustration that the average of the cycle is 28 days, and the moon cycle also takes the same amount of days, which is quite beautiful for me to think that we are so connected to nature like that. Also, another like coincidence, let's say like that, it's that the moon has four different phases, as we all know, like the new moon, the waxing moon, full moon, the waning moon, and the same happens to the menstrual cycle, which consists of four different phases as well: the follicular, ovulatory, luteal, and the menstrual one. And each of these menstrual phases, they can match one of the moon phases, which is quite nice as well. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but there are two cycles that are more common. I think for studies, people have realized that the most common cycle in terms of menstruality is called white moon cycle, which means the menstrual beings are bleeding during the new moon. So if they are bleeding during the new moon, it means that the menstrual phase, it matches the new moon, and the follicular phase, it matches the waxing moon, the ovulatory phase, it matches the full moon, and the luteal phase matches the waning moon. This is the most common one. The other common cycle, menstrual cycle, is called red moon cycle. And it means that menstrual being, they have their period during the full moon instead of the new one. And again, it's fine if you are not synced like this. I'm not synced like that either. My period usually comes during the waning moon, which makes a lot of sense for me because I think during the waning moon, that's when I feel I'm kind of fading and changing. There's something changing inside myself. And then in the new moon, I feel that there's just a space. There's a kind of emptiness in the good sense of the word, which opens space for new projects and ideas. So for me, it makes sense how my cycle is. And I think like for all of us, how our cycle is will make sense because it's truly connected and deeply connected with our life processes and our inner with our emotions and the inner cycles actually.
There is a comment by Dia.
Yeah, I've just seen that. Yeah.
There might be a parallel between a mother to bees. But yeah.
So where would you think that would be in relation to in the sort of the moon and the seasons?
Sorry, it's a little loud over here.
It's fine, it's fine.
I just was thinking as you were talking about the seasons, and I might have read this somewhere, that I think there's this parallel, and I'm trying to remember my own labors, so I can't really, since it's been a couple years, match it up quite precisely, but there are waves, and of course every mother-to-be's labor is different, but there are waves and cycles of, you know, different sensations and feelings, and I think that they might parallel to like the maiden and spring feeling, and then the you know, because it's very like cyclical and having different not really able to verbalize it precisely, but just different sensations that would be, it's not just a progression of things, you know. So I just feel like there might be that parallel with that experience as well. It's kind of interesting.
I think that's like a really interesting point. Like I didn't consider that, and actually I think that's like a really interesting cycle within itself, sort of like the birthing and how that can adapt sort of the moon phases and what that brings, and as you said, the different sensations and how often would they occur.
My cycle didn't come back for almost 2 years. So it was absent for quite a long time, plus the 9 months of being pregnant. So it's still like regulating. And I think the period right after birth is so vulnerable, so vulnerable, the postpartum period, that I think it's quite often overlooked. And it's really a time that new mothers need to be supported with like the maximum support possible from the community and from their friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you know, I think bigger groups like governing systems don't set up support, at least not in all parts of the world. So the US is definitely lacking in that area. But the feeling of separation can be quite acute, but at the same time, it's also a very gradual one. I still feel like two people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because she still nurses, but I often feel like she's still attached to me physically.
Yeah.
So then it actually feels really strange for us to be separated if I'm working or if she's away when it's for a long period of time. I don't know if all moms feel that way, but it's really, really interesting.